So we're here talking about attachment theory and specifically how it relates to your child's learning. So in the last video, I talked about how children use trusted adults as a secure base for exploration and learning. But there's another person in that relationship whose attachment system we haven't talked about, and that's you, the parent. Parents don't enter relationships with their children as blank slates. We bring our own history of relationships with us. And attachment researchers have actually studied this. One of the most interesting tools that they developed is called the adult attachment interview. And here's what's fascinating about it. Researchers weren't simply interested in whether adults had good childhoods or bad childhoods. They examined how adults made sense of their attachment experiences when they talked about them. Was their story coherent? Could they talk about difficult experiences without becoming completely tangled up in them? Could they recognize both positive and negative parts of important relationships, or did they dismiss the importance of attachment altogether? Researchers describe this as an adult state of mind with respect to attachment. A parent's attachment state of mind has been associated with the attachment relationship their child develops. In fact, research using the adult attachment interview has found meaningful correspondence between parents' attachment representations and their children's attachment patterns as well. So this isn't just your childhood affects your parenting. That's so broad it barely tells us anything. The science gives us a much more interesting possibility. The way that you learn to understand relationships may influence how you respond when your child's attachment system gets activated. So think about what that means in real life. Your child is frustrated with homework. They don't understand something. They start whining or they push the paper away. They say, I can't do this. On the surface, it looks like we're dealing with a learning problem, but underneath it, two systems may now be interacting. Your child is struggling and looking to you for something, and you are having a response to their struggle. Maybe dependence makes you uncomfortable. Maybe big emotions make you want to fix the problem immediately. Maybe you become anxious when your child struggles, so you jump in and rescue them. Maybe your instinct is, you're fine, just do it. Those responses don't automatically make someone a bad parent, but they may not be random either. Attachment theory gives us a framework for asking where some of those automatic responses come from. Because when your child's distress activates your old expectations about relationships, you may start responding to more than the math worksheet sitting in front of you. And that's where this gets really important for learning. Remember what we talked about in the last video. A secure base gives a child somewhere safe to return to when exploration becomes difficult. Learning works like that too. Trying something new involves uncertainty. Making mistakes can create frustration. Asking for help requires vulnerability. And eventually, the child has to move back out and try again. So the goal isn't to eliminate struggle, and it isn't to rescue children from every uncomfortable feeling. It's to create a relationship where a child can experience difficulty, get the support they actually need, and then return to the challenge. That's why our own patterns matter. If I become overwhelmed by my child's frustration, I may rescue too quickly. If dependence makes me uncomfortable, I may push independence before my child is ready. Either way, I may be unintentionally changing the learning environment. And here's another part of the research that I think matters enormously. Your own childhood does not simply determine what kind of parent you will become. Attachment researchers aren't just asking, what happened to you? They're interested in how have you made sense of what happened to you? And that's a very different question. Because attachment isn't about blaming your parents, and it certainly isn't about blaming yourself for every struggle that your child has. It's about becoming curious about the patterns we bring into the relationships. So the next time your child is struggling to learn something and you feel yourself getting unusually anxious, impatient, controlling, or desperate to make the struggle disappear, there may be another question worth asking. Not just, what does my child need right now? but what is happening in me right now, because sometimes the adult's attachment system is in the room too. And once we recognize that, the bigger question becomes how much of what we call a child's learning behavior is actually being shaped by the relationship in which that learning is taking place. And that's something I think deserves a much bigger conversation. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how your child's teacher and their relationship with the teacher also affects their experience in learning, and more specifically, how your child's teacher's attachment style affects the classroom and affects your child's learning. And I'll see you over there.